first rally workers' party, we didn't expect. Just stay here. No media agency gives an estimate of the first workers' party. Tens of thousands. Yeah, but the first workers' party rally, the whole thing began. So I had to bring this. Oh, you want to do it live as well? Oh, this is fun. Who pay for the data? So you reimburse you. No, it's not there. Yeah, the guy. Yeah, you gotta go past. You gotta show a middle pass. That's all.
They didn't let you go out.
Yeah.
全世界有哪一个国家有？包括中国皇帝呀、康熙呀、还是汉武帝，还是英女王，还是法国王，给我写上去，给人民自由去拿人钱。哎，给我写，你的华语写来。来，我根据给你，跟我写上去，没有写做漏气，每个报纸不大。马来西亚，我写上去，要给人民自由去领自由棒，50岁过后的。
他们不敢写了，因为这个
没有了，报纸人民讲话要写的嘛。啊，官小官清楚嘛，这样都说他很本事，很本事来控制扣10年，全世界240多个国家，每个国家有的。
对了，
啊，糟糕了，人都没有人权。哪一个皇帝有把你家里的钱拿去放10年？没有了，国家也没有，皇帝也没有了。每个 IC 在这边每个字都不敢写，只是七几个字。
Stadium, my favorite stadium. Stadium, very special. Oh, where?
看他新加坡什么报纸写，讲了之后他都不敢写了。
Nah, you before party, my go. Oh, before party, the lawyer Ravi talk. Good. The
我
lawyer.
们也不是讲坏话哈。
对啊，他对对对。
啊，因为人钱，你的利息不够，他要放在哪里？
他像纣王一样，纣王啊，
国王还没有，你不要弄错，你去读历史，国王没有把你的钱拿去收。
像商朝的纣王一样，他人是像纣王一样，纣王。
没有，国王没有，你要读历史。英女王也没有，
对，
康熙也没有，汉武帝也没有，
乾隆也没有，乾隆也没有。
我们的钱不能拿出来。
对。
妈的，你以为
有了。我们这样
等我死了，你才拿出来。
让我们这样讲，明天会话记者不敢。
他是一群懦夫。
那么不是反对党反移民啊，全世界反移民啊。
对。欧洲有难民危机。
没有，澳洲全世界反移民，不是我们人民反移民。不要乱讲话，不是反对党反移民。
我哋一樣嚟到咯，我哋結束啦，都呢。
人家沒有讀書，小學讀1年級 ，ABC 不過我唔不一樣，還寫啊。
Tomorrow I become a part-time photographer. I was a photographer during my school days. I know what it is. In my school days, I'm really a photographer.
不要扣那個帽子。你喜歡移民啊？都移掉了。
I think this one, they will win.
新加坡没有天地这样小就。
I guarantee lah. You think I guarantee will win.
因为够快。
Sure go in lah, don't worry. I guarantee you lah.
可以给移民来吗？
不可以，
啊，不是 Australia。
Cannot go in like jump down from the
也不是
heaven.
纽西兰那个土地有东西。
Jump down from the heaven.
哇，这个你是记者，你跟我写上去。不是，不是很可惜啦。 安哥没有读书，也不懂人呢，也不懂得这个画上去会不会像那个石榴树嘛？我就是那边一家高逼了，鼻涕滴了。
他会学乖的。
那个啊，人民应该讲话，讲错你跟人民解释这是错的，就好。
人民人说我多打他多几巴掌了，
不可以啦，人民是人民，
你至少打几巴掌。
土地是人民的，金钱是人民的，讲错你跟他讲啊，这个是
他妈的没有人民，新加坡哪里有今天？
对咯。
不可以这样讲，国家是人民的，土地人民的，金钱是人民的，不等拿的薪水，每个国家一样。
对啊，
每个国家，全世界国家一样。
啊，你用见过很多的。
全世界的国家一样的，土地是人民的，钱是人民的。
然后这个人我这边想模反正会。想这个人们现在想模。
为啥哥戴眼镜了？哥眼睛坏了要去割，你是流眼泪。来9月15号，大光要去割眼睛。哥老了65岁，ABC 888唔得。
阿哥，你是哪里选的？
啊对，I will work for them. That's why I come.
我这税红给你了后，你莫，你说你多少？啊，你话就是那些的车，你不会。
Yeah lah.
我看别的，发现看别的的500的呢。
They give you $300-400 after they take back for you $2,000. Where the money remaining money?
你买我买，你是看不？你是他你是呀，他你得靠我了，靠我了。
新加坡人到底怕什么？土地是我们的，金钱是我们的，为什么怕？人家拿我们的薪水，怕什么？
CPF 不能拿出来就完蛋。
ridiculous。
明天我死了，我就完蛋。CPF 拿去哪里？
做不好我们开除啦。
CPF 给他take out，所有有带而已，是好，我那有带。
怕东怕西，连讲两句话还怕。你看我讲，他们都不敢写上去。
啊，对。
我没有讲错话嘛。反移民不是反对反移民，全世界很多国家人民不喜欢移民，不是我们新加坡。
对了，就是这个。No, you know why you work down there?
你看，你哥拿了这旗有共产党，可是很多人没有敢讲，他不敢像哥这样公开的。
对，
怕死啊！讲两句话怕死啊！可笑。
Uncle, we want opportunity MPs in the parliament. Keep them on your toes.
你跟我讲華語嘅 ABC 得我不義嘅。
反對黨議員同一黨權都進去，反對黨這多數反對黨議員。
你不要弄錯嘞。安哥今年65歲拍拍照，人家跟我說我的孩子做警察不可以的，我的孩子槍兵不可以的，我是一样啊，我的孩子低调不可以的，要投那个 PAB 啦。
啊，对对对，
啊，每个人怕东怕西的，我叫的士也不可以的，我小贩有的摊子也不可以。
很莫名其妙是吗？
新加坡指路一条了 ，on the way 是吗？可怜了，新加坡人民很可怜了。
对，要上天可以看得到，上天
没有用，要靠自己，没有什么上天的。每个人没有上天，靠自己。
我们和上天可以。
求人比登天更难。
That's the meaning of democracy. What's the meaning? You study, you know. You don't know, then you go back to school.
行动党总是时机未到。
他们不去看了啦。新加坡人啊，他认为啦，一心就是 BAP， 没有 BAP 他没有关系，他没有户籍住的，懂吗？The Prime Minister pay 100,000，懂不懂？新加坡人的头脑就是新加坡人的头脑清
10,000 every day.
他到这个等级来完蛋了，鬼主一代。有人讲的，知道那个人是谁？可以讲。
You work how long you can get 10,000?
没有 BAP 不会死的，我有跟你讲。好吗？你还小，刚才65岁了，新加坡人的头脑啊，清楚，永远洗不清的啦。最好乐德一来，我跟他讲过，他的老婆是台湾人，一个台湾的总统啊，他做了总统，他律师楼卖给人，他应该在做嘛，笨的。
你攞邊出兩
没有，我是台湾总统，他老婆就是。
我攞邊出兩餐啊！
Fellow Singaporeans, thank you for your support. We are very happy to see so many of you tonight.
We know that you know we need a voice in Parliament. It is time to vote in more opposition. Singapore belongs to us. We can make Singapore. The PAP has left us behind. Enough of their broken promises.
各位荷兰五级芝麻的居民、新加坡同胞们，晚上好！感谢大家抽空出席我们新加坡民主党的群众大会，谢谢你们。我是玉珠，您今晚的华语司仪，站在我身边的英语司仪是 Suraya。在我左边偏后的地方设有红色布顶的销售亭，在那儿我们销售一些刊物、书籍、小巧玲珑的玩具熊、小旗子等等。出售所得的款项将用于支付我们竞赛活动的费用。另外，在投选当天，我们也需要您成为我们民主党的投票和点票代理人。您只要到销售亭那儿去向我们的工作人员报名，那就行了。记得，竞选活动需要很多的资金和人力，所以我们恳求你们给我们支持和协助，谢谢大家。在开场前，有几件事项想提醒大家，那就是注意个人的安全，并保持场地的清洁，不要乱丢垃圾。首先介绍的是我们的特别发言人，她不是别人，就是站在我身边的 Suraya 女士。苏女士是一名美容师，也是2008年新加坡太太选美赛的特别奖得主。她也是丈夫摇滚乐队 Kraton 的高音主唱。她和丈夫加入民主党已有8年之久了。Tonight's special speaker is Madam Suraya Akbar. She is a professional makeup artist. She is also the winner of 2008 Mrs. Singapore Subsidiary Award.
Thank you.
She is also the leading soprano singer for Singapore's only Javanese symphonic metal band Kraton, led by her husband, who is the band singer and a songwriter. Despite having 3 very young children, she and her husband have been very active with the party since 8 years ago. So let us put our hands together to welcome this outstanding lady, Madam Suraya.
Thank you, Yochu. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I will start my speech with Malay first, ya. Selamat petang teman-teman dan rakyat Singapura yang saya hormati. Selamat datang ke Perhimpunan Pilihan Raya kami yang ketiga. Kami amat berbesar hati menerima kehadiran anda pada malam ini. Mungkin anda perasan liputan tentang SDP di akhbar sangat sikit. Hampir tak kelihatan kan? Begitu juga liputan berita TV. Saya yakin anda tahu bahawa pilihan raya ini amat penting. Penting kepada anda, penting kepada generasi anak-anak anda. Parti SDP mempunyai perancangan yang komprehensif untuk membawa kemakmuran kepada rakyat Singapura. Selepas anda mendengar butir-butir yang kami bentangkan di sini, kami harap anda berkongsi dengan rakan-rakan dan ahli sanak saudara anda. Calon-calon kami akan menerangkan dengan lebih terperinci. Walau bagaimanapun, izinkan saya memberi update tentang kempen SDP sejauh ini. Bukan satu yang berlebih-lebihan jika berkata yang kempen kami menerima sambutan yang sangat baik. Bila kami bertemu penduduk, mereka menerima kami seperti kami ini penyelamat bagi kerisauan yang mereka tanggungi selama ini. Rakyat Singapura amat merasakan bahawa pemerintah Singapura tidak mementingkan warga asing, lebih mementingkan warga asing dari rakyat sendiri. Kami terima cerita-cerita tentang bagaimana pekerja Singapura dipinggirkan dan digantikan dengan tenaga kerja asing. Peluang promosi juga ketinggalan. Rasa tidak puas hati terhadap CPF yang dibekukan sehingga umur 65 tahun dan bila diberi pula dalam bentuk serpihan yang kecil. Seorang pemandu lori berumur 50 tahun telah mengadu kepada kami bagaimana beliau digantung lesen memandu selama beberapa bulan kerana kesalahan parking di tempat yang salah. Sungguh tidak berperi kemanusiaan, kan? Tetapi, bagaimana dapat beliau melakukan kerja delivery di setengah-setengah tempat yang tidak ada loading bay dengan parking di pinggir jalan? Akhirnya, dia diberhentikan kerja dan tempatnya diganti pekerja asing pula. Satu cerita yang amat menyentuh hati adalah bagaimana Dr. Chi disambut para pengundi. Walaupun pada awalnya terganggu dengan imej yang dipaparkan media massa, ramai para pengundi yang mahukan perubahan telah datang untuk bertemu sendiri dengan Dr. Chi. Dan setelah bertemu, berbual dan berbincang, mereka sedar bahawa imej buruk yang dipaparkan PAP dan media massa bohong semata-mata. Walaupun baru berkenalan, Dr. Chi sangat ramah dan memberi perhatian penuh dengan sesiapa saja yang sanggup mengenali dirinya. And now, I'm going to do my speech in English. Thank you. Terima kasih. Good evening, friends and fellow citizens. Welcome to our third rally of this campaign. We are truly heartened to see so many of you taking time off to come and listen to what we have to say. The mainstream media is not telling you much about SDP. As in every election, the SDP tends to get the least exposure. I know that all of you will agree with me that this election is very important to you and your future generation. The SDP has very comprehensive plans to gradually bring about improvements to the lives of Singaporeans. I hope that having heard what we say, you will go back and share with your relatives and friends. And our candidate will tell you more and elaborate on what I have told you. Now, allow me to share you a brief update of the campaign thus far and the kinds of response and reception that we are getting from residents of the constituencies that we are contesting in. It is no exaggeration to say that voters give us the impression as though they are being liberated. Yes, liberated from the uncaring and senseless policies of the PAP. There is a deep-seated feeling that the PAP cares more about the well-being of foreigners rather than that of Singaporeans. Agreed? Now, real-life stories of workers being displaced and replaced by foreigners keep repeating over and over again. Cases of unemployment and underemployment are also common. Unhappiness over the CPF being held up till the age of 65 and the payment in bits and pieces that at the age is one subject that are aired by many voters. There is also a sad case of a 50-year-old delivery driver who received summons repeatedly for illegally parking his lorry briefly without causing any inconvenience at all. He said that in certain areas there were no parking areas at all and to briefly park his lorry for a quick delivery. This led to the suspension of his driving license for several months. There was no compassion at all. As a result of his suspension, he lost his job because his employer could not wait for him and replaced him with a foreigner. Now, at his age, it is difficult to get another job. Am I right? He's already 50. So that is the story he told us. We understand that this is not an isolated case. There are many other similar stories. There are also stories about married couples who find difficulty in buying HDB apartments due to its high cost. This is in spite of the government claims that this issue has been resolved. Yes, they have built many flats, but the price remains unaffordable to many people, right? Stories of jam-packed trains and buses are still making their rounds in spite of PAP claims that the problems have already been alleviated. One heartwarming story that I must tell you is that the reception that Dr. Chi is receiving for voters. They come, they meet him, they talk to him, and after a short while they change their mind about him. He is not the monster or the psychopath that the PAP has all along been painting him. The truth is gradually but surely been seen. Let SDP be your voice in Parliament. Thank you, everyone. And we have our first candidate for Bukit Batu SMC, Mr. Sada Sivam Veria, is an ex-teacher. He has taught in various primary and secondary schools. In 1972, he attained a certificate in education from the Dan Teacher Training College. During the teaching days, he was secretary and later president of the Singapore Tamil Teachers Union. In the past, Mr. Sada Sivam served in grassroots organization of Ayer Rajah constituency under former PAP MP Dr. Tan Cheng Bock. He joined the PAP in the early 80s, believing in the party aims for uplifting the lives of Singaporeans. However, after having worked within the party and its grassroots organization for some time, he began to have doubts about the direction of the party is heading and the values it seems to inculcating. After concluding that the party has strayed from its mission, he decided to join SDP. which is more in line with his own values.
接着要介绍的是五基巴都的单选区的候选人，他就是桑达西麦先生。现年63岁的他已婚，育有3名介于25岁到30岁的儿子。他是一名退休教师，曾在中小学执教多年，曾担任新加坡淡米尔教师工会的会长和秘书长，曾担任在1972年，他获得前教育学院教学文凭。在上世纪80年代，他加入人民行动党，与前议员陈清木先生活跃于阿耶拉加基层活动。在工作的当儿，他开始觉察到行动党的作为与先前为人民服务的目标有了出入，所以他选择离开行动党，加入更能代表民生的民主党。他在上届大选挑战38望集选区。现在有请桑达西麦先生上台。
Mr. Sada Siva, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me address few words in Malay first, then I come back. Para pengundi, tolong undilah SDP. Bila kita menang, kita masuk dalam parlimen, kita akan jadi suara anda. Ada hal banyak kita nak kasih terangkan, tapi tidak ada masa. Ini election dia bagi 9 hari aja untuk campaign, tidak cukup. Kalau dia bagi 30 hari lagi bagus. Tapi government yang takut. Kalau dia bagi 30, mesti dia kalah. Sebab itu dia kurangkan. Memang tahun depan dia lagi kurang. Tengok macam mana dia nak jalan. So tolong undi SDP, baru kita boleh jadikan suara anda. Terima kasih. Thank you. சிங்கப்பூர் குடிமக்களே, உங்களை பிரதிநிதிக்க நாங்கள் தயாராக இருக்கிறோம். அன்பார்ந்த வேட்பாளர்களே, ஆளுங்கட்சி உங்களுக்கு பல வகைகளில் வாக்குறுதிகளை கொடுத்திருக்கின்றது. ஆனால் கொடுத்த வாக்குறுதிகளை காப்பாற்றுகிறதா என்று நினைத்து பாருங்கள். மக்கள் செயல் கட்சியின் வெற்றிக்கு அவர்கள் பாடுபடுகிறார்கள். ஏன்? நாடாளுமன்றத்தில் அவர்கள் மட்டும் இருந்தால் நினைத்ததை செய்யக்கூடிய வாய்ப்பு அவர்களுக்கு இருக்கிறது. எதிர்த்து பேசுவதற்கோ, உங்கள் கஷ்டங்களை அவர்களுக்கு எடுத்து சொல்லுவதற்கோ, உங்களின் பிரச்சனைகளை பற்றி விவாதிப்பதற்கோ ஆள் இல்லை. அதைத்தான் அவர்கள் விரும்புகிறார்கள். அதற்கு நீங்கள் இடமளித்தால் உங்களுடைய எதிர்காலம், உங்கள் பிள்ளைகளின் எதிர்காலம் பாதிக்கப்படும் என்பதை நினைவில் கொள்ளுங்கள். எனவே அன்பு வேட்பாளர்களே, நாங்கள் கேட்டுக்கொள்வதெல்லாம் இதுதான். நாங்கள் போட்டியிடுகின்ற holland-bukit, Bukit Panjang, Marsiling, Yuti, Bukit Batok, யூவா ஆகிய தொகுதிகளில் இருக்கக்கூடிய நமது நண்பர்களை எதிர்க்கட்சிக்கு வாக்களிக்க ஆதரவு கொடுக்கும்படி கேட்டுக்கொள்ளுங்கள். எங்களுக்காக நீங்கள் அவர்களை தொடர்பு கொண்டு எங்களுக்கு வாக்களிக்க சொன்னால் அது எங்களுடைய வெற்றியை உறுதிப்படுத்தும். அப்பொழுதுதான் நாடாளுமன்றத்தில் உங்களுக்காக நாங்கள் பேச முடியும், குரல் கொடுக்க முடியும். இல்லை என்றால் அடுத்த 4 ஆண்டுகளுக்கு காத்திருக்க வேண்டும். பிரச்சனைகளுக்கு எந்த ஒரு தீர்வும் யாராலும் காண முடியாது. ஆளுங்கட்சி ஆட்சிக்கு நிலைத்து இருக்க வேண்டும், ஆட்சிக்கு தொடர்ந்து ஆட்சி செய்ய வேண்டும், ஆட்சியில் தொடர்ந்து இருக்க வேண்டும். அப்படி இருந்தால் அவர்களுடைய விருப்பத்தை நடைமுறைப்படுத்த முடியும். இதனைத்தான் அவர்கள் விரும்புகிறார்கள். அதற்கு நீங்கள் வாய்ப்பளிக்கக்கூடாது. இந்த கூட்டத்திலும் சரி, கடந்த கூட்டத்திலும் சரி, நாங்கள் பேசியதை பத்திரிகைகளின் வாயிலாக உங்களுக்கு தெரியப்படுத்த விரும்பினோம். ஆனால் அந்த அளவுக்கு செய்திகள் வெளிவரவில்லை. அதற்காக நாங்கள் வருந்தவில்லை. நாங்கள் சொல்ல விரும்புவதை நீங்கள் கேட்டால் அது போதும். உங்களுடைய ஆதரவை நாங்கள் எதிர்பார்க்கிறோம். ஆகவே தயவு செய்து எங்களுக்கு வாக்களியுங்கள். நன்றி. Thank you, friends and fellow citizens. Now we are in a very, very crucial period now. This is an election that is between the people and the People's Action Party. Thank you. If you allow the PAP to win, all that they want is continuity. All they want is that all the 89 seats be won by the PAP. Why? It's not to take care of your welfare. It is to take care of their welfare. That is exactly what they want. If they get elected, they can introduce new policies. When they introduce new policies, if it is to your favor, no one is going to oppose. It's not that we want to criticize the PAP. We are concerned about you. Whatever policies which they introduce, it must be for your benefit. Because the nation is developed not because of the PAP MPs, it's because of your contribution. They fail to realize that. They're coming up with the special concessions only to win your vote. During the National Day, they gave you one whole day free transport services. You can travel from point A to point B. You can take MRT. You can travel by bus free of charge. That is exactly what you experienced it. That is it. But the question is we are asking, if you are willing to concede millions of dollars for one day, why not reduce by 10 cents so that everybody can benefit throughout the year, isn't it? You can benefit. All you're asking, just 10 cents per trip. Everybody can benefit. But they are not prepared to do that. Now they're coming up with the policies. End of the year, they're going to give you a concession, reduction. Who is asking for it now? If you are serious, you should have done it much earlier. That 50th celebration, you should have made it 10 cents less so that everybody can benefit. Why wait till December? Because they want you to compromise. This election, they hope you will vote for them. If you're going to vote for them, don't forget. What they're going to do for the next 4 years, they're going to keep on shifting. Thank you. When they introduce CPR policies, 55 years old. Then they shift to 62. The question is then they shift further back to 65. Now they're telling retiring age is 67. Who knows? When you reach 65, they'll tell you, sorry, 67. They'll keep on shifting. That shows they are not bothered about you. That is the problem. From 55 to 65, you suffer. They're not bothered. You walk into CPR board, you ask them. They've got so much problem, they're not listening. They say, sorry, 65. We are not blaming the staff. That's the policy. So please bear in mind. Now, another important matter you should know. We are not against the foreigners. Foreigners can come to Singapore anytime. There's a beautiful country for you to visit. We welcome you. But please don't compete with us for job. That is what our request is all about. Because of your arrival, Singaporeans are being deprived of their job. Employers feel comfortable to employ foreigners. You give them lesser pay, they are there to take it. But what about us? If we give us $700, $800, do you think it is sufficient for you to survive? No. With the present cost of living, do you think it is enough for you to meet your expenses? No. Government is not bothered. That is why SDP is proposing minimum wage system. Why are we asking minimum wage? $7 an hour. If $7 an hour, at least per month you can get 1,000 plus. At least you can meet your expenses. You can live, not very comfortably, at least reasonably. Is it wrong to ask that? No. Government is always avoiding us. Only recently a statistics was disclosed. Overall in Singapore, 30% of residents in Singapore, that means it includes Singaporeans as well as foreigners who are residing in Singapore, paying tax. only 30%. That means 70% are not paying tax. The question you should ask, why? According to Income Tax Department, those who earn less than 20,000, you need not submit your form. Isn't it true? Most of the Singaporeans would have experienced it. Below 20,000 per annum, you don't need to submit your form. Automatically are exempted. Yes or no? Ask them. The question is this. If it is below 20,000, the 70% were to be below 20,000. How come government statistics, they always proclaim to the world, average income of Singaporean 4,000 plus. Is it possible? It is because the top percent is earning a lot. The gap between the poor and the rich is so wide. That is why when you average it, we get 4,000. But that is not true. Each and every citizen in Singapore knows you are not earning $4,000. If you are earning 4,000, you'll be paying tax. That is what I want you to think carefully. You do your own calculation. We are not here to cheat you, or we are not here to tell you stories. We are here to tell you the truth because we feel that affect your life very badly. As my fellow party man introduced me as a past PAP member. Yes, I was a past PAP member. I was a trade unionist. I tell you a story what is happening in the trade union movement in Singapore. Most of you are trade union members. The question here is, you are in the union to represent the workers. But in Singapore, you go and participate in the forums. Don't question. Don't raise question. If you say something, you are wanted. I have been called up. When I was in the trade union movement, when I raised question, I have been called up personally and advised to be very careful. Can they deny that? I'm challenging them today in this platform. Ask them to come out in the open to say that they have never called me and never asked me to keep quiet. I'm challenging them. Not only in the trade union movement, People's Association. I was representing my union in the PA, People's Association Board. When they found out that I'm a sympathizer, I'm not even a party member, sympathizer of an opposition, they asked me to step down. This is how Singapore functions, because they know you are not on their side. If you're on their side, no problem at all. When I was with the PAP, there was no problem, no question asked. The minute I become a sympathizer of an opposition, I received a letter. I was a teacher before. I received a letter. My principal called me and gave me a letter. You know what is stated clearly? Division 2 and Division 1 staffs are reminded, you are not to be associated with any political activities. That is exactly what was given. Can they deny that? I'm asking them today. This is exactly how they function. When I was with the PAP, everything was okay. No problem at all. The minute I crossed the line, I'm no longer wanted. But how many civil servants are working for PAP? I know them. How many school principals are in the PAP? I know them. They've never received any letters because they're on the other side. The minute you cross over, you are wanted. Is this what you call democracy? Is this what you call democracy? This is how the government functions. Please, my dear voters, we don't have much time. If in this election, if we can't win within another 4 years, what more changes, nobody knows. The minute PAP get a full victory, the policies can be changed. That is not going to benefit us. So you got to bear in mind. My party is putting up 4 very capable, highly competent and good, concerned SDP candidate. Paul Tambaya, Dr. Chi Chun Juan are very well known to all of you. Please vote for the team. Once they are in the parliament, they are going to be an effective voice to raise issues. You know how committed they are. I need not to say it. You have seen the last 2 rallies. Dr. Chi, I need not to explain. You know how concerned he is. He has been struggling all along for you. So this is an opportunity. Please show your commitment. Show your concern. All we are asking you is vote us into the parliament so we can be an effective voice. We are not against the PAP. Please bear in mind. We are not against the PAP. All we are asking is you to send us in so that we can check on them. We can check on them so that the policies can be something formulated to benefit you. So dear voters, please vote us in. Urge your friends. If each and every one of you can reach 10 voters who live within your constituency to vote for us in Holland, Bukit Masling UT, Bukit Panjang, Bukit Batok, and Yuhua. If you can reach 10 voters, we are home. We will be in the parliament to check on PAP. Please, my dear voters, vote for SDP. Vote for SDP. Vote for SDP. Thank you. Good night.
下一位要介绍的是马士岭油池集选区的候选人陈良玉先生。他现年54岁，已婚，是一名大学讲师，也是新加坡民主党的副主席。他曾在上届大选代表民主党出阵三巴湾集选区。在空暇时，梁玉 喜欢烹饪和与家人一起玩棋牌游戏。
Fellow Singaporeans, thank you again for coming to support us tonight. You know we are not like the PAP. With lots of money and human resources to spare. So we urge you to please, before you go back home, there are 2 merchandise booths for you to check out our books, magazines, souvenirs, small version of our mascot Danny the Bear, clappers, whistles, light sticks and flags or other materials. Sales from these items will go towards payment for the cost of electioneering work, flyers and posters and etc. So we hope that you would support us. Thank you. And our second speaker is a candidate contesting in Marsiling UTGRC. Mr. John Tan Liang Ju, 54, is the Vice Chairman of the Singapore Democratic Party. He is a social psychologist and lecturer, currently teaching psychology and statistics for Murdoch University at Kaplan, Singapore. John holds a bachelor degree from Fresno Pacific University and a master's degree from the University of Wisconsin. For leisure, John cooks, plays board games, or just chill out with his family.
John, please come on
Mr.
stage.
John Tan.
Let's give him a applause. Yeah, applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Dear friends, it is with great honor that I'm addressing you tonight. I would like to share with you a few incidences that I encountered during my walkabout. In fact, I wish more of you would volunteer with SDP on our walkabout or visits to the residents. You know why? You get a lot of story. You get a lot of people who come up to you to tell them or to tell you their woes, their story, and also story of victories as well. During my walkabout just this morning, a number of people came up to me and asked me why I didn't address this or why I didn't address that. And tonight, I suspect that some of you might feel this way too. I want to apologize that given the 10-15 minutes that I have up here, I can't bring up all of the issues. So please go to our website, yoursdp.org, and you will find all of our written policies there. There are more than half a dozen there. And chances are, you will find what you are looking for. But for tonight, like I said, I'm going to bring you a few highlights of those issues that pops up again and again during my walkabout. Just a few days ago, someone told me that he lost his job of 14 years because the company found someone cheaper. Of course, no price for guessing. You got it. The alternative that he was referring to was a foreign worker, of course. He continued to explain that he has since been doing ad hoc job because he couldn't find another permanent job like the one he had before. And that has been over the last 3 years. It's going on like that. His income now is roughly about half of what he got before. And that's only when he has a job. And in between job, his income is zero. His life now, he told me, is in topsy-turvy. There are bills to pay, there are kids to look after. At 47, it is so difficult, if not impossible, for him to get another job similar to the one that he had before. Well, he said that his performance has always been good. And to prove that, he said that over the last 14 years of his employment in that company, he has received a few good employee award. So then, how can they just fire me? He asked with a troubled voice. I'm quite sure, he said, that the one that replaces him is not better than he is. It's cheaper maybe, but not better. So how can they just fire me like that? Just replace me like that? I have performed for many years to the satisfaction of my boss. This person is new and untested, so it cannot be. He kept shaking his head. He kept shaking his head. It cannot be, he said. Well, my heart aches as I listen to his story. But then I feel so helpless. Something tells me that I can help, but then I can't. I can't. I want to speak up for him, but I don't have the voice. Only you can give me that voice. For those of you who have read our policy, you will know that the SDP, we are not against foreign talent if they are really foreign talents. If they are talents that we do not have. But in this case that I just shared with you, it was not talent we do not have. Clearly, this person has been performing well for 14 years. It was a mere replacement to save a few bucks for the company at the expense of a loyal and faithful employee. Is that justice? We are not against foreigners who can contribute to our talent pool. It's important to have a good talent pool. But we are against the indiscriminate opening of that employment floodgate to foreigners at the expense of fellow Singaporeans. And the PAP, the government, is doing just that. The SDP proposes a Singapore first policy. When everything being equal, in terms of talents, the skill needed, whatever, when everything is being equal, employment priority must be given to Singaporeans. We import talent only when we cannot find a Singaporean to do the job. We want such a policy. Why? Because charity begins at home. We must take care of our own. And the PAP hasn't learned that. We want such a policy because we believe in Singaporean. We believe in you. We believe you have the talent. Singaporean can. That's what we believe. I want to tell the PAP tonight that we do not need a spur to be stuck on our height to make us run faster and work harder. And don't treat us like horses. But come this Friday, you tell them that they need a spur stuck in their hide by the SDP for being complacent, for being uncaring, for not putting you number one. Another story. 2 days ago, just 2 mornings ago, when I was greeting the morning crowds at the Marsiling MRT, a man demanded to speak to me. When my colleagues pointed me out to him, he came running to greet me. He says, 陈先生, 你要替我拿回我的钱. You must get back my money for me. You must get back my money for me. But for a moment, I thought that someone has taken his money, maybe a loan shark or somebody. Then he continued, 我有钱在公积金，不过拿不出. I know what he meant. Don't we all face that too? He said that he worked as a hard laborer. 我做出工的人，现在老了，这种工作我做不来。 So he explained to me that he now has to take on 2 jobs. One job as a dishwasher, and then the second job, some odd job that comes around every now and then for him. And even with that 2 jobs, he could hardly pay his bill. They are not heavy jobs, he said, but the hours are long and very tiring. Well, earlier on, my colleagues, Sadas, had explained to you why we want the minimum wage. That's one of the reasons. Well, he continued, I only wish I could take out my money. Then most of the problems and hardship that I experience right now would have been solved. That's right, that's right. It's your money. You are right, absolutely, that's your money. I assured him that the SDP heard him loud and clear. The government must fulfill its original promise to let you withdraw your money at the age of 55. The government cannot force you to have your money locked up at all. The choice must be yours and yours alone to choose whether to leave your money when you are at that age or to manage it yourself. Why? Because it is your money. This I promised him, and I hereby promise you that this is what I will raise for you when you put me in Parliament. The same man continued, says, 在这个年龄我会赚得多少? How much can I earn at this age? He's probably in his 60s. And he told me that he is way behind in his HDB mortgage payment. And even with 2 jobs, he finds it hard to pay all of his bill. And when I'm late, he says, even for a few days, I have to pay penalty and interest. So you see, this adds stress to the poor man. He said he talked to the officers in charge many times, but they couldn't do a thing. Well, neither can I, actually. At least not for now. Not when I'm standing there at the MRT station talking to him. Not when I'm outside of Parliament. But when you put me into Parliament, I promise him I will speak up for you. And now I promise you too, I will speak up for you. Many times my friend asked me, why do I go into politics? I told them, I don't go into politics. Politics goes into me. I'm a private person. I don't like to be in the limelight. As a social psychologist, I prefer to do what I do best. I like to teach in a uni. I like to do the research, that sort of things. I don't like to be a public figure. I don't like to be a politician. Actually, my stomach still churns a little bit sometimes when people call me a politician. Well, I guess maybe partly it's because of the negative notion that people have about politicians. And partly because I simply have no interest being a politician at all. So why do I contest for this election? It is because of stories such as this. It is because of the many stories that I've heard. It is because of your story I heard. It is because of my friends' hardship and situation that I've witnessed. It is because of my own experience of feeling helpless and powerless because of an uncaring government. My fellow citizens, you have the choice to take back your money. You have the choice to take back your power. You have the choice to take back your life. You can start by putting Team SDP into Parliament. Let us take your money back for you. Let us be your voice. Let us speak up for you. We can. SDP can. SDP can. SDP can. Thank you. Thank you very much. Put us in on Friday.
接着要介绍的是39岁的林文兴先生，他是在马士林。接着要介绍的是39岁的，听不到。
Testing 1, 2, mic check 1, 2. Can you hear me? What about, you guys at the back? Can you hear me? Very good, thank you.
接着下来要介绍的是39岁的林文兴先生，他是马士林邮池的候选人，他在一家医院担任行政经理。林先生毕业于维多利亚中学和淡马锡理工学院，过后他也获取澳大利亚摩纳省大学商学士学位。林先生小时候和父母及2位弟妹住在三藩市政府祖屋，由于出生于小康之家，因此他非常贴近一般市民的生活。目前他是一名4岁大女儿的爸爸。
Another candidate from Marsiling UTGRC, Mr. Brian Lim, 39, joined the SDP in the 90s and was the founding member of Young Democrats, the youth wing of the party. He later became its vice president and then president. He was the youngest member to be elected to the Central Executive Committee of the party. He stood in the Hongka GRC in 2001 general elections. Mr. Brian Lim, please.
听得到吗？各位，听得到吗？后面的人听得到吗？好，各位亲爱的荷兰五级芝麻选民，各位亲爱的同胞们，晚上好。今晚我的演讲是关于一个人，不要误会哦，不是那个姓李的那个长者啊，不是讲他。我说的这个人是新加坡独立以来唯一被3位总理起诉的政治家。如果世界金氏纪录有办这个项目的话，那奖状就非他莫属了。行动党给他取了很多绰号，如疯狗、先天性骗子、爱领风头的家伙。我认识他将近16年了，我发誓我没有被他咬过，也没有给他骗过钱或骗过感情。 对我来说，他只有个称呼，他就叫做徐顺全，徐博士。当我第一次见到他时，是1992年马林百列补选的一次群众大会上，大家都对这位国大讲师感到很好奇。当他演讲完后，当时只有16岁的我，对他的智慧和魅力留下深刻的印象。就这样，一位闪亮的政治巨星就此诞生了。然而，行动党并不想让这位巨星发光发热，他们通过国营媒体展开了一系列的行动和宣传，想尽一切办法摧毁徐博士的政治生涯和人格。行动党以及国营媒体把他描述成一位不可置信、愚蠢和不诚实的人，你们同意吗？徐博士因为他的政治理念和观点，赔了房子，丢了工作，几乎倾家荡产。他在国外有好多就业机会，但他都一一拒绝。这是因为他从来没有放弃过他的政治理念，这是因为他从来没有放弃过新加坡人民。我认识的徐博士，完全和传播媒体所形容的他背道而驰。我认识他幽默风趣，非常尖锐，很有真诚、智慧和爱国主义。我在青年团的时候，他常鼓励我、开导我、指导我和支持我。各位，你们必须要知道，一个肆无忌惮的独裁政府，再加上一个完全顺从听话的媒体，那股综合的力量就是阻碍真理的最大障碍。你们知道吗？徐博士在国际领域里已经获得多项奖项，他所得的奖项包括全球行动议员所颁发的捍卫民主奖，和国际自由主义联盟所颁发的自由奖。各位，想想看，如果徐博士不是为了新加坡打拼，那么这些国际机构何必颁奖给他呢？为何他们要认可一位行动党称为疯狗和骗子的政治家呢？徐博士用坚定顽强和非常规的政治作风挑战新加坡现在的政治状况，只迎来了法律诉讼和抨击。在这20年来，大多数新加坡人民对他持有这种坏的印象。但是，徐博士没有因此而妥协，反之，在他的带领下，我党变得不止更强大，而且那些对他有意见的新加坡人民也对他维护党纪、专业精神和吸引青年军的优点感到赞叹。小弟不就是个活生生的例子吗？各位，徐博士被指控把张时中先生逐出党外的神话，就因为社交媒体的崛起而不攻自破。张时中先生是自愿请辞的，民主党一再强调了，而且我们也说过，我们想说服他改变主意。可是张先生 不为所动。传统媒体歪曲事情的真相，不属实的报道，这是非常可恶、非常可怕的事情。难怪我的朋友每次都跟我说，报纸唯一真实的报道只有日期。在2011年初，张先生和政治评论家王慧南医生讨论了张先生返回民主党的计划。张先生意识到，我党在各方面一直承认他为创党人，而且对他归党并无意见。我党也认为，如果张先生重新加入民主党的话，那这就是反对党统一的终极象征。我们觉得你们的反应也是正面的，对不对？张时中夫妇与徐博士举行了几次的会谈，所达到的共识是，张先生将以导师班的身份回访民主党，并率领一支团队挑战集选区。徐博士甚至还帮张先生准备民主党在网络新闻所发布的讲稿，他也安排张先生在民主党周年晚宴上正式回归的一系列活动。不幸的是，张先生夫妇觉得事情来得太突然了，所以想推迟回归的计划。因此，这历史性的一刻并没有童话般的结局。但是各位，重点是徐博士甘愿地拱手让出这个他投入毕生青春和做出种种牺牲的政党，让张先生回来领导。各位，你们说徐博士是不是具备无私奉献的精神呢？他有必要这么做吗？记得在2001年的某一天，我问徐博士一个问题：徐博士，民主党在我国政治圈似乎显得太前卫了，您觉得我们有什么办法突破这个政治僵局呢？徐博士回答我说 ：“Brian， 全亚洲的民主热潮已经在延伸。你看看韩国、泰国、台湾，甚至邻近的马来西亚。Brian， 有一天，这股民主热潮将席卷新加坡，而行动党将不能抵挡这股热潮。” Brian， 他接着说 ，Brian， 这一天会到来的，就让我们耐心等待吧。各位，不用再等了，这一天就是9月21日。你们就是那股民主热潮。您将用手上的选票告诉行动党，他们不能在国会里继续为所欲为。您将用你手上的选票向行动党证明，你们不需要自然的贵族来统治你。您将用手上的选票向行动党展示人民的智慧、勇气和力量。各位，你们想不想让徐博士这20年来的默默耕耘被荒废？想不想？你们想不想让徐博士白白牺牲他的政治生涯？那就请你们成全李显龙总理的心愿，把徐博士这只老虎送进国会，好不好？我们帮李显龙总理完成他的心愿，好不好？所以，请你们务必把徐博士和另外10位候选人送入国会，成为您国会里的声音，好不好？ 民主党行不行？民主党行不行？民主党行不行？民主党，民主党，民主党，谢谢各位，晚安。
接着要介绍的就是你们这一区荷兰五级芝麻集选区的候选人，他就是55岁的西迪先生，他是前公务员，目前在一家私人机构担任审计师。他已婚，育有4名子女，平时喜欢烹饪和打保龄球。
And our next speaker is a compliance auditor in a leading security company. He is a former civil servant. I present to you your candidate for Holland-Bukit Timah, Mr. Sidek Malek.
Salam sejahtera, saudara-saudari, para pengundi yang dihormati. Hari ini merupakan hari kelima saya kempen pilihan raya umum 2015. Walaupun kempen ini singkat, tetapi isu-isu yang dibincangkan bukannya isu baru. Seperti anda, saya juga termasuk salah seorang warga Singapura yang merasakan beban kos sara hidup yang tinggi. Seperti anda, saya juga termasuk golongan generasi rakyat Singapura yang hampa kerana wang CPF tidak dapat dikeluarkan untuk memenuhi cita-cita besaran. Tahun ini saya 55 tahun. Saya rasa seperti itu. Kita berkumpul di sini kerana kita sedar betapa pemerintah PAP telah menjadikan kehidupan rakyat Singapura berat dan penuh dengan tekanan. Anak-anak kita keluar ke sekolah dari jam 7 pagi dan pulang hingga lewat pukul 6 petang dan sambung pula dengan kerja sekolah rumah yang dibawa pulang dan mereka tidur hingga sampai ke 10 malam. Hujung minggu kita terbantut dengan kerja overtime yang sangat diperlukan demi mencapai target gaji bulanan yang cukup. Hujung bulan kita dibebani bil-bil api air, bil telefon, bajet perbelanjaan kerja, bajet belanja pasar dan sebagainya. Dan kadang-kala terpaksa dibatas kerana gaji tak cukup. Ini semua merupakan perbelanjaan yang telah hangus. Belum lagi kos merawat jika anak anda atau anda yang sakit. Sememangnya banci penduduk pada tahun 2010 menunjukkan purata dan median pendapatan keluarga Melayu Islam satu-satunya yang jatuh di bawah paras nasional. Saudara-saudari, para pengundi yang saya hormati, keluhan-keluhan yang saya nyatakan tadi bukanlah keluhan saya atau keluarga saya semata-mata. Sebenarnya, ia semua adalah keluhan para penduduk yang kita temui selama parti SDP mengadakan lawatan ke estet-estet perumahan di Marsiling, Sembawang, Holland, Bukit Timah dan Bukit Batok. Ini telah berlaku beberapa tahun yang lalu. Kita bertemu pasangan muda yang terkejar-kejar masa untuk menguruskan kerja dan keluarga. Kita bertemu warga emas yang masih bekerja kerana anak-anak mereka juga menghadapi kesukaran kewangan. Sebagai ibu bapa, warga emas ini tidak sampai hati untuk mendesak anak-anak. Tidak sampai hati menambahkan stres kepada anak mereka. Ini kerana kasih sayang mereka yang tidak berbelah bagi. Kita bertemu dengan kumpulan kegiatan riadah yang rindu kepada suasana gotong royong dan prihatin terhadap sesama rakyat. Lebih-lebih lagi, dalam suasana kejiranan yang padat, ditambah pula warga asing yang bekerja di sini. Masing-masing dengan budaya yang kurang prihatin kepada kebudayaan rakyat Singapura. Kita bertemu ibu bapa yang tunggal dan tidak putus asa dan harap untuk mendidik anak-anak secara yang terbaik. Kita juga bertemu dengan para peniaga, para belia dan ahli profesional. Di setiap pertemuan, kita disambut hangat dengan senyuman dan tanpa dipaksa, mereka meluahkan isi hati mereka. Ada yang sampai menangis kerana bercerita, tetapi kesemuanya menyampaikan hasrat dan harapan tinggi supaya SDP dapat menjadi wakil bagi menyuarakan suara mereka di Parlimen. Saya yakin anda di sini juga mengharap begitu. Betul? Anda mengharapkan SDP menang dalam tandingan pilihan raya 2015 ini, betul? Anda mengharapkan SDP akan mengutarakan janji untuk menjadi suara anda di Parlimen, betul? Kami dengar dan kami faham hasrat anda. Janganlah sia-siakan peluang ini untuk mengubahkan kehidupan anda. Janganlah sia-siakan peluang ini untuk menjamin masa depan yang lebih baik untuk anak-anak anda. Dan janganlah sia-siakan peluang ini untuk memberi persaraan yang mulia kepada ibu bapa anda. Jadi, undilah saya, Sedek Malik dan SDP untuk menjadi suara anda di Parlimen. Good evening, Singapore and voters of Holland-bukit. Thank you, and thank you for coming to this rally. Now, at one time or another, we often hear of our fellow Singaporeans complaining that they have been discriminated against. You know what I mean? You visit the hospital, and who attend to you? Foreign health caregivers. And when you go shopping, you are attended by foreign salesperson. So much so that foreigners have become a dirty word. But mind you, we must not look at foreign workers lest we are labeled xenophobic. SDP is not xenophobic, and neither Singaporeans are xenophobic. We must be clear on that. The government has always said that Singapore or Singaporeans do not want to do these jobs. I think many Singaporeans, given the right remuneration, the right salary, would be very happy to take on these jobs. And we welcome foreigners who contribute to our flourishing economy. But the government must play its part by restricting the flow of foreign workers and introducing policies to pay workers a decent minimum wage. In truth, foreign labor should supplement our workforce, not to displace it. Let's look at another segment of the workforce, our Singapore PMETs. I ask you, are Singaporeans qualified to be managers? Are Singaporeans qualified to be engineers? What about technicians? Bankers? We have heard many stories for how Singaporeans feel pressured and squeezed out of the job market. What has the government done to alleviate this? We have a world-class education system, and we produce quality graduates. Look at our university. NUS is placed among the world's top 10 best universities for 11 subjects across disciplines. And yet, local graduates find it hard to get into the job market and are often underemployed. We are underutilizing our own talent pool, and we need to invest in developing local talent so that we can remain competitive in a globalized world instead of just importing foreign laborers as a quick fix. Also, the government must make it a policy for all employers to hire Singaporeans first. Singaporeans first before looking for suitable foreign talents. The PAP government has forgotten that Singapore is about Singaporeans. On many occasions during our walkabouts, Singaporeans came forward with real stories. Stories about how they felt being left behind and being treated unfairly and indifferently by foreigners. These stories come in thick and fast. Singaporeans felt like a foreigner in their own country. Let me assure you once again that the SDP does not dislike foreigners. In fact, we recognize that they make positive contributions to our economy. But questions keep popping up. Why do we see many jobs that Singaporeans can do go to foreigners? Why has the PAP government freely allowed companies to hire foreigners? Is it just to cut costs? PM Lee said that the government will manage the balance between helping companies based here to grow and to control the inflow of foreign talent. Are we willing to wait 5 more years of empty promises? Nothing much has changed since 2011. Remember the 6.9 million population target? The government has promised it will be 10 million before we know it. We must let the PAP government know that they cannot treat Singaporeans' happiness and future like masa-masa. It is not enough that the PAP government has treated Singaporeans like incompetent citizens and repeatedly threatened us Singaporeans to take away our ice cream if we do not conform and elect them. This general election, we Singaporeans must show the PAP that we are capable of thinking and managing our personal and social lives. We must show them that we are suffering, but more in silence. So let us use the ballot box for justice and equality. This is why you need SDP as your voice in Parliament. So vote for SDP. Thank you, and may God bless Singapore and Singaporeans. Majulah Singapura!
家晚上好。居民们，你们今晚感觉怎么样？好不好？
Can all of you say SDP together with us for 3 times?
我们高喊 SDP 3次好不好？大声好不好？
Can we do that? Can, great. All right. SDP! SDP!
SDP!
SDP!
SDP! Very
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah. 下一位我们要介绍的也是你们荷兰五级芝麻区的集选区的候选人，她就是张慧芬小姐。张小姐今年45岁，未婚。她是在2011年加入民主党，目前为党的财务秘书。她曾当过护士，目前也是仁慈疗养院的管理员。她能讲一口流利的英语、马来语和广东话。
She is presently the administrator of Renchi Nursing Home. Contesting in Holland-bukit GRC, we present you Miss Chong Wai Fang.
Good evening, residents of Holland-bukit GRC. Fellow Singaporeans, how are you feeling today? How many of you are attending the rally for this general election for the first time tonight? Whoa, many new hands. I'm so privileged. Take a look around you now. See the MRT track, the trains that pass by every few minutes, the high blocks of our public housing and private housing, the trees around the field. Look at the people beside you, your family, your friends, neighbors, and other fellow Singaporeans. What do you see in each other's eyes? Do you see hope or helplessness? Joy or sadness? Enthusiasm or defeat? What do you feel in your heart right now? Can you imagine growing old in this country, moving in the direction that the PAP-led government is bringing us? I do not need to remind you that we have made much progress in the last 50 years. We have been bombarded with information about the transformation of Singapore from a fishing village to a global city. If you have not heard anything about SG50 the past year, please let me know how you managed to do that, because I'm having information overload about SG50. We are all aware that there are poor people in Singapore. I cannot remember when I started seeing an increase in the number of people who sleep on benches or on the void decks at night. Nor can I remember when the images of old and frail workers clearing trays at food centers, cleaning toilets, collecting cardboard boxes became permanently imprinted in my head. So how many poor people are there in this beautiful country of ours? Unfortunately, we do not really know, as the government said that it was not useful to define a poverty line. In 2013, Caritas Singapore and a coalition of partners ran a campaign called Singaporeans Against Poverty to highlight that there were 105,000 low-income families in Singapore who earn on average $1,500 a month. The campaign encouraged Singaporeans to take the $5 challenge. Have you all heard of it? Okay, indeed, it wanted people to suspend judgment and feel what it is like to live on $5 a day for food and transport. I took up the challenge, but very quickly realized that I would have spent $3 on transport both ways and I will be left with $2 for my meals. I can't buy a meal from the food court near my workplace at $2. Now, many of these 387,000 people from the low-income group may not be sleeping on the streets, but they struggle to fill their stomachs, pay their children's school fees, buy clothes and books for them. They struggle to pay their bus fares, and hence would have to turn down jobs that are too far away from home. Given the choice, many do not wish to ask for handouts. What can we do to support people from the lowest income group so that when they work full-time, they earn enough to pay for their basic needs? The SDP proposed setting up a wage equity commission comprised of representatives from trade unions, Chamber of Commerce, professional associations, social work organizations, and academia. The commission will recommend the minimum wage level in Singapore where workers can cope with the rising cost of living. The minimum wage level will be based on a basket of factors, including the cost of living index and inflation rate. The progressive wage model for specific industry does not adequately address the needs of the lowest income earners in Singapore. Mr. Lim Swee Say's assertion that cheaper, better, faster products and services does not mean cheaper, better, faster workers. But I wonder how services that require high human touch, such as nursing care, can be cheaper, better, faster without pressure on wages. We are now one of the most expensive cities to live in, yet the wages of the lowest income earners have not even kept up with inflation. We also have one of the highest income inequality in the world. We have been constantly reminded that we have much to be thankful for. Frankly, I do not need to be reminded that I should be grateful for this transformation, because I am fortunate to be amongst the ranks of working class who can afford to drop several dollars into tin cans of the various organizations during their flag days, or pay $1 for 3 packets of tissue paper. But with my limited resources, how much can I do? Why are there so many voluntary welfare organizations and non-profit and NGOs out there raising funds to help the various causes, from children with special needs to nursing homes, from cancers to strokes, from dogs to dolphins? Each time I put some money in these cans, I had wondered, can I do more? There was a time when I was waiting at a pharmacy and I saw an elderly woman at the counter listening to the pharmacist explain to her the many different medications that she has to take for her medical condition. When the explanation ended, she was told that the medications will last her 3 months and will cost her more than $100. There was silence and hesitation. And then the old lady took out her purse and counted whatever little money she had in there and told the pharmacist quietly that all she could afford was $30, as she needed some money to go home. The pharmacist then packed the medicines up to $30 and told the old auntie that she can come back another time to buy the medicines when she needed more. My heart broke, and I was tempted to pay for the old lady's medicine. I'm not sure if the old lady would ever return to collect her medicines later. I was dismayed when I witnessed a similar incident at another visit to the pharmacy several months later. Again, I wondered, can I do more? So here I am, standing here as a candidate, a member of the SDP Holland-bukit Timah team, because I believe I can do more. I believe I can make a difference to the life of Singaporeans. Instead of trying to help one person at a time, picking people up when they fall through the cracks, I believe I can be more effective being a member of parliament where we discuss policies and craft better policies so that people do not fall through the cracks in the first place. We need to reform social security in Singapore, not make piecemeal changes to address the gaps. The SDP proposed several measures that are laid out in our economic policy paper. It's entitled A New Economic Vision Towards Innovation, Equal Opportunity and Compassion. These include returning our CPF savings on retirement, reducing costs of HDB flats, lowering healthcare costs, and increasing social spending. The SDP has been working hard since the last general election to formulate alternative policies to improve the well-being of Singaporeans. I believe that the government does not have monopoly of ideas. There's no perfect solution to all the problems that we are facing. But the government has a responsibility to craft policies that serve the well-being of Singaporeans. When we look at Singaporeans from low-income families as human beings with hopes and aspirations like all of us here, not as people who are lazy and choosy about jobs, just waiting for money to drop from the sky, then perhaps we can have policies that are more humane. When we look at Singaporeans as people who want something better for the future generation, a happier, less stressful life, then perhaps we can have policies that will uplift our people and not dump them down into economic digits. The SDP does not intend to bankrupt the country. Ask my fellow CEC members. I'm the treasurer of SDP. They can try asking me for money and see how difficult it is. Even the SecGen doesn't get away with it. Okay, so the CEC members will tell you I do not sign checks easily. I have a stake in this country. I want this place that I call home to be around for a long, long time. We ask you to give us the opportunity to be your voice in Parliament. We can be a voice in Parliament so that we can speak up on issues that are important to you, not important to the ministers. Do not be afraid of voting for the SDP. Your votes are secret. Nobody knows who you will vote for. Please do not allow the PAP government to put fear into your head. Have courage, my fellow Singaporeans. Vote for SDP for a better future. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, next Friday when you go to the polling booth, vote for the SDP without fear in your heart. For SDP can! Thank you. Good night.
各位居民们，竞选工作需要很庞大的资金和人力，所以我们需要您的支持和协助。在我左边偏后的地方设有红色的布顶的销售处，在那儿我们销售一些书籍、刊物，玲珑的玩具熊、小旗子等等，请你们过去观看一下，好不好？还有，我们在投选当天也需要很多工作人员，我们希望你们在当天成为我们的投票代理或者点票代理人。您也可以到那个红色布顶的销售处那边与我们的工作人员报名。谢谢大家。
Please support us wholeheartedly by getting our merchandise at the booth. We need the money. We need it so much because We need the money to run the campaign and it's not cheap. Please help us and donate generously. Thank you.
接着下来，我要介绍的是被视为新加坡民主党最有潜质的新人，国大医院感染科高级顾问医生及国大杨路林医学院教授淡马亚博士。现年49岁的他已婚，妻子是南大商学院讲师，他精通中英文。
He has tried to work within the system for years, but he eventually came to realize that the only way to make real changes through the political system. He chose to be involved with SDP because he believed in the party aims. Candidate for Holland-bukit Timah, GRC, Professor Paul Anas Tembaya.
For our staff, our crew to hand over all.
They already done that, so don't worry.
Chris was asking me, they don't know. Hey, Mike. Hello.
They off.
Okay. It's okay. Sorry, my fault. Okay, friends, fellow Singaporeans, thank you all for coming for this rally for the SDP team for the holland-bukit Timah GRC. I'm going to talk this evening about why I joined the SDP and why I'm here asking for your votes. As you know, I'm a medical doctor and a professor at the university. I have a relatively comfortable life, a happy marriage, work that's rewarding. I enjoy teaching, research, looking after patients in a public hospital. However, in the course of my work, I've encountered many patients who have suffered unnecessarily because of the high cost of healthcare in Singapore. We have some of the best doctors, nurses, and allied health professionals in the world. We have excellent facilities, we have access to really good drugs, but unfortunately, our healthcare financing system is based on some very questionable moral assumptions. The PAP-led government does not appear to understand or want to understand that very few people choose to be sick. Most of us, if we had a choice, would rather not get cancer, chemotherapy, or surgery for any other reason. We try very hard to look after our own health, but our genes and our environment are beyond our control. The current healthcare system, which demands heavy co-payments and high deductibles, punishes people who are sick for no fault of their own. It is obsessed with the bottom line. There are many managers who, every time you try and introduce a new clinical service, they ask for a business plan. That is not their fault. They are merely agents of a system which demands financial accountability as its overarching goal. Now, I used many occasions, forums, discussions, feedback sessions to bring my concerns to many in the Ministry of Health. In fact, the previous health minister, Mr. Khaw Boon Wan, once said that the first doctor to post on his MOH Facebook page was me. But all I got was polite responses, occasional comments about limitations, and finally I realized the only way to really make a change was through the political system. And we know this to be a fact, because it's only through parliamentary questions that we know that MediShield is probably the world's most profitable public health insurance system if you go in terms of the medical loss ratio. So I decided I had to get involved in politics. Now, in terms of politics, I had to choose a political party. Some of my friends even suggested I could try joining the PAP and try and change them from within. But you know, that's frankly, I think you all know that's kind of impossible. It's too big and too monolithic. Amongst the alternative parties, however, the SDP had the most clearly defined political philosophy. The SDP believes in a democratic society based on justice and equality. Those are values which are very dear to me. These are values that I was brought up with. Both my parents felt very strongly about social justice. My father, who passed away in 2011, was a highly respected doctor, well loved by his patients, both rich and poor. He had strong views about the privatization of healthcare in Singapore. My mother, who is 78 years old, remains an active volunteer and a tireless advocate for the rights of children with disabilities. She continues to campaign for compulsory education for children with disabilities, which is something that the parents of these children want, because they know that unless these children are educated to the best of their abilities so that they can look after some of their activities of daily living, they'll be in deep trouble once their parents pass away. So I wrote to Dr. Chee Soon-Juan and met up with him a few years ago and started attending some SDP events. I found out the SDP is not some huge, big political machine, but rather a small band of dedicated volunteers, some of whom you see here. They believe in a better Singapore. The SDP has taken a stand in support of the rights of marginalized communities in Singapore, and Dr. Chee has spoken out on many unpopular issues, such as civil liberties, as well as bread and butter issues, such as returning our CPF. The SDP views education, healthcare, retrenchment insurance as investments in the people of Singapore, not welfare dished out by some natural aristocrats to undeserving masses. These views resonated with me. I do not think that the people of Singapore want handouts. They want to have the dignity of strong safety nets which allow us to pursue our own dreams. Thus, I became more involved with the SDP. As many of you know, in 2011, I was invited to speak as a guest speaker at the SDP rallies, and I spoke at the Boat Quay rally. Thank you. That rally was videotaped by one of my former students, and she put it online, and it went viral very quickly. I received many expressions of support from those within the medical community, but also expressions of concern. Friends and colleagues were worried that I would lose my job, or worse, every time I went to Mount Elizabeth to visit a friend, somebody would say to me, "Oh, they finally sacked you, and you're here looking for a clinic." I actually had some very good conversations with the leaders in NUS, and they were very supportive. They reassured me that the university believes in academic freedom, and as long as I stuck to the issues, I would be fine. The following year, I was involved in developing the SDP National Healthcare Plan. This was published in 2012, and I was one of those who presented it. And as you know, that plan is pretty critical of the healthcare financing system in Singapore. The year after that, in 2013, I was put up for promotion. And to a lot of people's surprise, I was promoted to full professor with tenure. And I think that is a very strong signal that Singapore today is a changed place. The knuckle duster era is over. Singaporeans can feel free to speak up without fear of the kind of drastic actions that happened in the past. Just look at this election. Roy Ng is speaking in Clementi Stadium. Han Hui Hui has been speaking in Delta. Those two would never be allowed to speak a few years ago. Things have changed. After my promotion, I continued to help out in SDP activities. I participated in some of the ground operations when they visited people in Sembawang, in Bukit Panjang, and of course now you know Sembawang has been split in two, so they continued in Marsiling UT. I also helped out in some of the other policy papers. I had a chance to, especially on the education paper, I had a chance to read and comment on some of the others, and I found that they were well-reasoned and carefully put together. There were many experts who helped us, some of whom were too shy to come forward. One of them who was not was Dr. Yeo Lam Keong, former chief economist of the GIC. And these strengthened my conviction that the SDP was the right party for me, a social democratic party that was constructive, compassionate, and competent. The biggest issue that many people, including many of those in my family, had with me joining with SDP was the version of the history of the SDP that they had heard through the mainstream media. And I think Brian has talked a bit about this in Chinese. The narrative said that there was once a nice, gentle party led by Mr. Chiam that got taken over by a madman and became radicalized into the personal kingdom of Dr. Chee. When I first met Dr. Chee in person, I was stunned to discover that he was nothing like the picture that was painted by the mainstream media. He was just an ordinary, decent guy with a deep passion for Singapore and for Singaporeans. This has come through in the social media era that we live in today, where we don't have to depend on the mainstream media. Social media has got pro, it's got con, it's got the crazy people, it's got the very logical and sane people, and you can hear and decide for yourself. That's what democracy is all about. Taking the evidence, listening to different views, and making a decision, because you're adults. You can make a decision for yourself. And I think those of you who were there at Pitter Road last night at Bukit Panjang really got a flavor of who the man really is. Sure, he's made mistakes. In particular, he made some political mistakes early on in his career, but all of us have. Even the Prime Minister in the last general election made a very public apology, and some people think he's going to make another apology in the next few days. Dr. Chi has picked himself up again and again, and ably supported by his wife May, has come out stronger for each blow that he suffered. I am proud to be part of the Holland-bukit team that he is leading. The main reason I'm part of this team, however, is because of the fundamental difference between the SDP and PAP. We trust the people of Singapore. We know that we are an educated and hardworking people. No matter how hard the PAP tries to divide or belittle ourselves, we can make our voices heard. We can be trusted with our own money. I'm nearly 55 years old. In a few years' time, most of us who are 55 will have our own families, careers, and it's a real insult to tell us that we can't manage our own money. Every month, we put aside a significant portion of our money, and we were promised that at age 55, we could take it out, we could invest it in some annuity, or we could spend it on a lifelong dream. And now we're told we cannot be trusted. Just because there are a couple of people who have blown their money on wine, women, and karaoke, and they now have to depend on their children. No, they don't depend on the government. In Singapore, nobody depends on the government. So why should all the rest of us be punished by the government retaining our CPF money? That's not right. Our CPF money is our money. The SDP has proposed that individuals who want to leave their money in CPF for the stable returns can do so. The rest of us could take it out for some lifelong dream or could invest in an annuity. So we are adults. Please tell the PAP to stop treating us like children. You need voices in Parliament who can do that for you. And we need to look after ourselves as the cost of living is increasing astronomically. Most of our children will never be able to dream of the kind of life that we live. When I tell the junior doctors that in 1992, a few months after my ORD, my wife, who was a senior tutor in NUS at the time, and myself were able to buy a 1,600 square foot freehold apartment in Farrer Road, without any loans from our parents, they look at me as though I come from another planet. It's just not possible to do that nowadays. The massive influx of high net worth individuals engineered by the PAP government has priced middle-class young people out of the housing market. And that's for doctors. What about the average Singaporean without a medical degree? The price of HDB flats is now so high that young people have to both keep working at their jobs for years just to ensure they have enough CPF to pay the mortgage on their flats. And these flats are located far away from their workplaces. This leads to additional costs for childcare and reliance on a transportation system which cannot cope with a massive influx in population. In addition, if one of their parents or a child is sick, they have to worry about the extremely high healthcare costs. That's why the public housing needs to be seen once again as a roof over our heads, not as an asset for speculation. That's what the SDP's public housing plan is all about. Finally, this election is not just about dollars and cents. As many have pointed out, this election is about choosing people with the right values. I totally agree with that. None of us is perfect, but each of us has a set of values that came to us from our families, our friends, our schools, our religions, and our experiences. To me, the most important values are placing people first, placing people over profits, placing people over personal gain. I was very troubled when I read a report from our worthy opponent in the Holland-Bukit constituency, Minister Vivian Balakrishnan. Don't boo, don't boo. I just want to be 100% accurate, so I'll read out the correction published in the Today newspaper this week. This is from Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, open quotations. Tell me who can afford to work for you for zero. There are people who can afford to work for you apparently at zero. There are two kinds of people who can provide you services apparently at zero. Number one, I'm already very rich, my bank account is full, I come back, I tell you I want to serve. Other kind of person, why will that person actually cost more? The word is called corruption. That is the word, end quote. Now that kind of value that demands that ministers be paid high salaries or else they will become corrupt disturbs me and many Singaporeans too. Singapore has many wonderful volunteers who help out in many social services. My mother is one of them. She has not been paid a cent for the work she's done for more than 40 years in AWA. And we are not wealthy. We're comfortable, but not wealthy. The volunteers in the SDP who put flyers in people's mailboxes, do house visits, set up the perambulators, work behind the scenes at the merchandise stall, they are not wealthy, and they're certainly not corrupt. They do it because they, like so many of you Singaporeans, believe in our country. We know that we are not a corporation, although the world sometimes calls us Singapore Incorporated. We are a nation, one united people, striving to build a democratic society based on justice and equality. That is what this election is about, choosing the right people with the right values, people who care about Singapore and Singaporeans. We launched our campaign in January. We want to have a good, clean campaign, one that allows Singaporeans to make decisions on the issues. We trust the people of Singapore to make a choice that is good for ourselves and our children. We hope that you will let us be your voice in Parliament. Thank you.
最后要介绍的是大家期待已久，时隔15年后再度参加竞选的新加坡民主党秘书徐顺全博士。
The next candidate is someone who needs no further introduction. He is none other than our Secretary General of the SDP, Dr. Xi Chun-Juan.
Hi everyone. It's so good to see you all again. And thank you. Thank you all for coming down again to join us tonight. Look at the crowd. It's right from over here. I want to give a shout out to all of you. Thank you for coming. Right to over there. Thank you. And it goes right all the way to the back. I thank you all. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I'm feeling really good. And I'm sure you are too, because I sense that you are feeling hopeful that come next Friday, we will see the SDP in the next Parliament. Because that's when real change starts. Change that will make things that little bit more secure and more hopeful for all of you. You know, after the first rally that we had in Choa Chu Kang Stadium, after that, we went to coffee shop to get a drink. There, came across a table of guys just sitting around and having a round of beer. And I heard them talking. And they said, hey, you know, Dr. Chi, he was talking Hokkien and Cantonese and Teochew. And then they started arguing which dialect was better. Right? And then they couldn't agree. So they said, okay, let's put it to a contest. They said, what contest? Okay, let's see which dialect is more accurate, which more concise. Meaning, we'll ask each other questions and see how we can use less words. The lesser the words, the fewer the words, I beg your pardon, the better your dialect is. So everybody said, okay. And after a few beers, everybody felt a little bit more relaxed. So the Cantonese, guy speaking Cantonese says, I'll go first. Okay, you ask me any question. They say, okay, let's make this rule. First, you ask the question, who are you? Or what your dialect is. And then you must answer in 5 words. A big point. Answer in your own number of words, right? Then we'll follow the question, what are you doing? Then the guy accepted. He says, okay, I accept the challenge. Cantonese is so good that I will say it in 5 words. No more. Everybody said, are you sure? 5 words? Yes. Okay. So they started. This guy asked him, 5 words. 你係乜嘢人? Then the Cantonese guy said, 我係廣東人. 5 words. Very impressive. 你呢時做乜? 我呢時飲酒. 5 words. Wow, everybody was really impressed. Then this guy speaking, I think it was Keng Chiu or whatever. He says, I can do better. 4 words. What? Really? So they asked him. Lu si mi nang? 4 words. Wa Keng Chiu nang? Lu to mi te? Wa lim chiu che? 4 words. Then, not to be outdone, the guy speaking Hokkien says, I'll beat that. 3 words. Wow. Okay, let's start. Si mi nang? Hokkien nang? Zhou si mi? Wa lim jiu. Then the Teochew guy comes along now. 3 words? Not good. I give you 2. Wow. Li jiang, si wa, zhou mi, lim jiu. No, that's not the end. That wasn't the end. And the guy was speaking English. Very quiet on the corner. And he's a bit tipsy by now. English beat everybody. See, really? 1 word. Okay, good. The guy says, who? He says, me. What? Drink. Actually, I didn't hear that at a coffee shop. I heard that long time ago when I was little. You know to who? Those of you who are old enough to remember. You remember Wang Sa Ye Feng? We call him Apuya San. Chinese variety show. Can you remember? Don't raise your hands. You'll reveal your age. But those were the days that life seemed a little simpler. Dare I say a little happier? Certainly less stressful. But times have changed, hasn't it? And many people have commented that we have become less Singaporean. I don't know what is it that makes us Singaporean. I can't define it. And experts are having a tough time doing it. But I found that out. I found that out one morning, just yesterday morning, when I was up in Mall, doing a walkabout with my team. And after the walk, just in between, we took a break and had our coffee and we were sitting down, and some people ordered the mi jiang kueh, right? Because they say that it's very good over there, and I can vouch for it. It's ooh la la. There you go. Another language, French. So please, ooh la la is French. So we were sitting there, and we were eating our mi jiang kueh, and then, you know, I had a few pieces, and Paul was sitting beside me. So I took these 2 pieces and said, hey, Paul, have some more. He said, no, I can only have 2. Very jala already. And then it hit me. There was this Indian guy sitting with this Chinese guy, and he used the word jala, which I think is Malay. That's quintessentially Singaporean, isn't it? Here was this professor, the top of his field. He goes all over the world to deliver lectures. He calls me up. I never know at any time where he is. South Africa at one time, US and another, and then Korea and another day. But here he was, and here we were sitting down in a hawker center, very, very Singaporean. But, you know, as I said also, growing up, when I was in secondary school, I was the die-hard Singapore football fan. Those of you who can remember the 70s, Kallang Roar, we were in the thick of Malaysia Cup, right? Can you remember, all of you old enough to remember, banana kick specialist, S. Rajagopal, right? Gilek King, Dollah Qasim. Then we have our Kwa Kim Song. And then was the graceful Mat Nor. But when I watched them, I shouted myself hoarse. But never once did it occur to me that they were Malay or Indian or Chinese. They were Singapore. They were Singapore. But looking back, it just dawned on me that, as I said, I was never conscious of whether they were Malay, Indian, or Chinese. Then I got into politics. The first thing I heard was that the Malay needed a certificate to prove that they were Malay. The Indians needed a certificate to prove they were Indians. Do you know how offensive that is? Paul needs to show that he is Indian. Not only that, after he shows that he is Indian, the next election, he has to collect another certificate to show that he is Indian some more. This system constantly tries to divide us. You're Indian, you're Malay, you're Eurasian, you're Chinese, you're other. I don't know what it is. But the other day I saw somebody show me the pink IC, right? And under race they put German. And she speaks English. But as I said, many Singaporeans lament that we are becoming less Singaporean. And one of the things that is making us feel less Singaporean and feeling very stressed is the population policy that we continue to import hundreds of thousands of foreigners into this country. Now, whether you're taking the MRT or going downtown or just going to the beach to relax, the island is jam-packed with people. Already, with 5.3 million people, of which 40% are not Singaporeans. Singapore is already the third most densely populated country in the world. And yet, the PAP wants to push the population to 6.9 million. Now, I want to be very clear about this, and I hope you listen very carefully. I understand. The SDP understands that Singapore needs new immigrants. After all, we are a nation of immigrants. But that's not the question. The question is, how do we manage the flow of immigrants into this country? The way that the PAP has handled the matter has thus far been disappointing, and I am putting it very mildly. I'll demonstrate to you what I mean by drawing the analogy of a lifeboat. You have a ship that's sinking. There is a lifeboat that's in the water and can take 100 passengers, all of whom are waiting to get on it to escape. If we have everybody jumping into the lifeboat all at once, 1, 2, 3, everybody jump, what do you think will happen? The boat will sink under the impact. But we do it in an orderly manner. Children first, then women, then men. The boat will be able to safely take everyone in. The same is with our immigration policy. Can you remember in 2014 that Mr. Lee Hsien Loong likened Singapore to being a sampan? If Singapore is like a sampan, imagine what will happen when everybody jumps into the sampan all at the same time. The PAP has allowed so many foreigners in such a short span of time that the impact is causing our societies to split. Worse, it hasn't planned properly our infrastructure to accommodate the enormous influx. I had the shock of my life when in 2008, then Minister Giorgio said the government should come up with a master plan to see how many foreigners we can accommodate. After 10 years of allowing 2 million people into the country, then you come and tell us that the government needs a plan? Don't you think that's a little bit too late? One would have thought that a plan would have been in place before, not after the floodgates were open. But because the PAP did not have a plan to accommodate so many people, we found our foreign workers congregating in public places. There is Little Philippines in Lucky Plaza, Little Myanmar in Peninsula Plaza, Little Vietnam in Joo Chiat, Little Thailand in Golden Mile Complex, and of course Little India in Serangoon Road. And because of the lack of a plan to help these foreigners assimilate into our society, the congregation of these huge numbers of foreigners led to trouble. The riot in Little India is a case in point. The riot caused more than $500,000 of property damage. Several emergency vehicles were wrecked and scores of police officers were injured. The lack of planning by the government was so bad that even the police were not trained to equip to handle the unrest. The commission of inquiry that was convened to investigate the incident found that there were insufficient number of officers available. The officers were not properly equipped. Radio airwaves jammed at the crucial moment. The commanding officer did not have any idea how many men he had at his disposal. Officers on the scene admitted that they were not trained to handle a full-scale riot, and the police did not have the numbers to fully contain the mob. Then there are the constant MRT breakdowns. In the latest malfunction, which affected thousands of commuters, Mr. Liu Tak-yu admitted that, and I quote, "To be honest, I'm not fully confident that we will have a sustained period of no major disruptions," unquote. Again, where was the planning to ensure that our infrastructure could cope with the hundreds of thousands of people that we let into this country? And on our roads, have you noticed that it takes much longer nowadays to get from one place to another? Our expressways are much more congested, and because of this, the ERP rates keep on increasing. And that's not to mention that with more people buying cars, COE prices also keep increasing. What about housing? The super rich are coming into Singapore to buy high-end property, pushing up prices. That affects the price of HDB flats, especially those in the resale market. Many of you have told us of cases where permanent residents buy HDB flats and then rent them out or sell them at a handsome profit. I think by now that it must be abundantly clear that the problem is not with the foreigners in Singapore. We must be careful, and I cannot emphasize this anymore. We do not conduct ourselves in an ugly, xenophobic manner, where we take it out on foreign workers who are here. They are here to earn a living for their families just like you and I. If we are going to get angry, then let us get angry at PAP's policy, not our guest workers. And because of the PAP's over-liberal immigration policy, stress levels of Singaporeans are at an all-time high, and our quality of life has deteriorated. Listen to these statistics, which I'm about to tell you, and you can check out all this online. Singaporeans are more likely to have suffered from depression, stress, and fatigue than most of our Asian counterparts. Psychiatrists in Singapore reveal that up to 90% of their patients are suffering from mental health issues, stress caused by stress from work. Singaporeans work the most number of hours compared to other comparable economies, and with falling real incomes. Singaporean workers are the least happy in Asia. We rank 70th position out of 194 societies in the Quality of Life Index, and 90th position out of 151 countries in the Happy Planet Index. The elderly are pressured to continue working after retirement. The number of elderly Singaporean men working is at a record high. And yet the PAP wants to increase the population to 6.9 million. The government is already signing agreements that will force Singapore to let in even more foreign workers. Listen very carefully. The ASEAN Economic Community Agreement, or AEC, for example, would form a single market among ASEAN nations that will allow the unrestricted flow of labor across the region. According to a survey, 80% of workers in the region said they would like to work in Singapore under the AEC. Do you know how many hundreds of millions there are of people there are in ASEAN? Now, the agreement is expected to be in place by the end of this year. The influx of foreigners is not only affecting our quality of life, it is also increasing our cost of living. I mentioned on Thursday at Choa Chu Kang that Singapore is the most expensive city in the world. Another survey by this international group called Mercer found that Singapore has the 4th highest cost of living in the world. This is because the government is attracting millionaires and billionaires to Singapore, and this is pushing prices of everything through the roof. The government is also importing huge numbers of PMETs from our poorer neighbors, and these workers compete with you for your jobs, depressing your wages. Most expensive city in the world, lower wages. You don't need to be an Einstein to see why Singaporeans are suffering and what the cause of the problem is. The younger generation of Singaporeans also cannot afford HDB flats because they're getting too expensive. They have to compete with foreign students for places in our universities, and when they graduate, they have difficulty in finding a job. As a result, many of our younger Singaporeans choose to emigrate. A few years ago, Lee Kuan Yew pointed out that about 1,000 Singaporeans are leaving Singapore for other countries every year. Now, these people make up the top 4 or 5% of skilled Singaporeans that our economy needs. This is no small number given the size of our country. But the more people we let in, the greater the competition for jobs, the greater the competition for jobs, the lower wages become. The lower wages become, the more stressful life in Singapore gets. The more stressful life Singapore gets, the more Singaporeans choose to leave. And the more Singaporeans leave, the more foreigners the PAP brings in. And on goes the downward spiral. The only way that Singaporeans can prevent such a crazy, scary future scenario is to send a clear signal to the PAP in this election that you disapprove of such a policy. And the only way that you can send such a signal is to voice your unhappiness at this policy, is to vote for the SDP and send us into Parliament. Because without the SDP in Parliament, you will have continue to have no voice. And this problem will only worsen. All these are facts. I am not attacking the PAP for the sake of it. And I'm not saying that all is doom and gloom in Singapore. I take pains to cite you these problems which, by the way, some PAP ministers and MPs themselves have admitted, so that there is no question in our minds that these are serious problems and these are serious questions to be asked. Let me repeat, the SDP is not against immigration, and we are not against immigrants or foreigners who work here. We need new citizens and foreign workers. I met a few business owners just this morning, and they told me that it was hard getting Singaporeans to apply for frontline jobs in the F&B and retail sectors, and they need foreign workers. I agree. We need foreign workers. What I disagree with is the indiscriminate allowing of foreign workers into our country. In other words, we must manage the process better. We must regulate the rate at which we take in foreigners, as well as the quality of the workers whom we let into this country. To this end, the SDP has drawn up a comprehensive set of alternative measures that we can implement. But I will describe only one because of time constraints. Please read the others on our website, yoursdp.org. We want the government to adopt a Singaporeans first policy, where foreign workers, especially the PMETs wishing to work in Singapore, will be assessed via a point system based on a number of factors. Factors such as age, qualifications, skill sets, competencies, experience, number of dependents, etc., to determine if they meet the economic and population needs of Singapore. If they meet the cutoff, then they go into a pool of potential employees, and Singaporean employers will be able to hire from this pool. This is not hard to do. Canada does it, Australia does it, the UK does it. If the Canadian government can protect Canadians, the Australian government can protect Australians, the British government can protect Brits, why can't our government protect us? The net effect of SDP Singaporeans First policy is that we will be able to considerably reduce the current number of foreign workers in Singapore while, and I want to make this absolutely clear for our SMEs, allowing our businesses access to foreign talent that they need. It's a win-win situation for Singaporeans and Singaporean businesses. Now, as I stated earlier, we must focus on the policy and not on foreigners in this country. By the same token, let us focus on policies in this election, not on personal attacks. Now, it may come as a shock to you if I say this, so you better hold on to your seats or hold on to whatever you're close to you. Because what I'm about to say may register significantly on the Richter scale. I said this before. And I will say it again. The PAP is not all bad. Some of the MPs genuinely work and care for the people. But by the same token, neither is the opposition the useless, destructive force that the PAP paints us out to be. We have ideas, good ideas that will help to improve the lives of our fellow citizens, ideas that will take Singapore forward and make it a better place. The PAP and the opposition must find common ground and work for the good of this country. To this end, the SDP makes this pledge to all our voters here tonight. We will cooperate and support the ruling party on issues that benefit the people and that are good for our country. But where we see PAP policies taking Singapore down the wrong path, we will be steadfast in our principles and push the PAP hard. But we will not stop there. We will provide credible, workable alternatives to take Singapore forward. You may or may not agree with everything that we propose. No one agrees on everything all of the time. That would be like Nazi Germany. But even if you don't agree with us, you know that the SDP will always do it with sincerity, with honesty, and with Singapore's best interest at heart. Many people have told me, don't talk about democracy and freedom. Singaporeans are not interested in that. They're only interested in bread and butter issues. I know that. I know that. Speaking popular words and doing popular deeds is what will get parties into parliament. But that's not what the SDP is about. It certainly isn't what I'm about. Like everyone else, I want to be popular. As human beings, it is innate. We have the need to be accepted by our peers, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It is difficult being rejected. But there are times in one's life where we must choose between doing the popular thing or doing the right thing. I chose to do the right thing. I chose to tell you the importance of standing up and protecting your rights, even though it was not the popular thing at that time. I said it then, and I will say it again. Without democracy, without our political rights, we cannot make the PAP act in our interest. It is precisely because of the lack of our democratic rights that our situation has become so bad. During this period, when I was fighting for democracy, many people accused me of being out of touch with the people and even bringing the opposition a bad name. For many years, people, even some of my close friends, rejected what I was saying and doing. Those were very trying times. But whenever I found myself alone and racked with doubt and questions, I found strength in a poem. I want to share it with you tonight, if I may. The title of the poem is If. by Rudyard Kipling. Some of you may have heard of it. It goes something like this. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you and make allowance for the doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about but don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. I searched deep. But the more I searched, the more I found that there was only one answer. And that is, in life, one must do what is right, not just what is popular. Because what is right is also the truth. And the truth is that without our political rights, we cannot protect our wages, our jobs, and our future. My fellow Singaporeans, I would rather be honest and not get into Parliament than to lie to you and be in Parliament for all the wrong reasons. If you want to see a party that will stand up for you and do it with integrity, with honesty, with sincerity, then I beseech you, vote wisely, vote for the SDP. Thank you, and good night.
Okay, we are now going to do a simple theme activity to show our unity as Singaporeans and to stand in solidarity. So can we get all of you to light on your light stick? And when I shout SDP, you say can. Can we do that?
我们现在要做一项团队活动，展现我们国人团结统一的精神。我们要你把手中的荧光棒打开，在 Surya 高喊 SDP 后，你们一面高举荧光棒，一面喊 can， 可以吗？ Right now, call upon all SDP candidates to each take a light stick and get on the stage and do it together with us.
Are you ready? SDP! 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 Thank you and good night.
Yes. 在我们情绪激昂的呼声中，我要宣布今晚的群众大会结束。明晚的大会将在日朗西体育场举行。谢谢大家。
Please go to our merchandise booth to get your things there and support the SDP.
Tomorrow the rally will be at Jurong East Stadium. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. SDP! 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 Thank you for those who wants to volunteer for us as polling agent, please come down and at the booth. Please meet us at sorry. Oh, there's a book there at the booth. Okay, for those who wants to volunteer for us, please go to the booth there, the merchandise booth. We have a forms there. Thank you and good night.
Yes, we need lots of polling agents and counting agents. SDP will be standing up in 5 areas. So please help us. Thank you.
Okay, for Dr. Chi Soon Juan's book,